Have you ever wondered what you'd do if you came face to face with the impossible? I'm talking about something so legendary, so out there, that most people dismiss it as a myth. Today, I am going to tell you a story that starts with just data. Chilling encounter with what could only be described as Bigfoot, but ends in a way no one could ever predict. This isn't just a monster story. It's a story about fear, courage, and a rescue that redefines our understanding of the wilderness. Our story begins with Sarah, an experienced hiker and wildlife photographer. She'd spent years exploring the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest, capturing stunning images of bears, eagles, and elusive mountain lions. She was comfortable in the wild. She knew its sounds, its rhythms. But one crisp autumn afternoon, that all changed. Sarah was deep in a remote, uncharted section of the national forest, tracking a rare species of owl. The air grew still, unnaturally quiet. The usual symphony of birds and insects just stopped. An unsettling feeling washed over her, the kind of primal instinct that screams you're being watched. She slowly lowered her camera, scanning the tree line. And that's when she saw it. Standing partially obscured by a massive Douglas fir was a figure that defied all logic. It was huge, at least 8 feet tall, covered in thick, dark brown hair. It wasn't a bear. It stood on 2 legs, its powerful shoulders slumped, its long arms hanging at its sides. Sarah froze, her heart hammering against her ribs. Its face was more humanoid than ape-like, with deep-set, intelligent eyes that seemed to hold an ancient sadness. It was Bigfoot, the legendary Sasquatch. Every horror story she'd ever heard flooded her mind. She thought about running, but her feet felt bolted to the ground. The creature just watched her, not aggressively, but with a palpable sense of curiosity and something else, something that looked like weariness. Seconds stretched into what felt like an eternity. Then, as silently as it appeared, the creature turned and lumbered deeper into the woods, vanishing into the shadows. Sarah stood there for a long time, trembling, trying to process what she'd just seen. Her first instinct was to get out of there, to tell someone, to show them her photos because, yes, her hands had instinctively raised her camera and snapped a few blurry, panicked shots. But as the adrenaline began to subside, a different feeling took over. It wasn't just fear anymore. It was an overwhelming sense of awe and a strange pull to understand what she had witnessed. Days turned into weeks. The encounter haunted her. The local news was filled with stories about a missing person, a young man named Alex who had gone hiking in that same area and never returned. Search parties had combed the forest for weeks with no luck, and hope was fading. The official theory was that he'd gotten lost or had a fatal accident. Sarah couldn't shake the image of the creature's eyes. There was no menace in them. Could there be a connection? It was a wild, illogical thought, but she felt compelled to go back. It was a crazy risk, but her gut told her she had to. Armed with her gear and a new sense of purpose, she returned to the spot of her encounter. She was looking for answers. She followed the faint trail of broken branches and massive footprints, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. The tracks led her further and further off the known trails, into a part of the forest that felt ancient and untouched. After hours of grueling hiking, she heard a sound. It was faint, a low, guttural moan. It wasn't an animal she recognized. It sounded like something in pain. She followed the sound to a narrow, hidden ravine, almost invisible from above, and what she saw at the bottom made her gasp. It was the creature. The Bigfoot. It was lying on its side, one of its massive legs caught in a rusted, old bear trap, the kind that had been illegal for decades. The metal jaws were clamped tight, and the area around the wound was inflamed and infected. The creature was weak, its breathing shallow. It looked up at her, and in its eyes, she saw not a threat, but a desperate plea for help. Beside the injured giant was a makeshift shelter of branches and leaves, and huddled inside, pale and weak, but alive, was the missing hiker. Alex. He was using strips of his own shirt to clean the creature's wound. A small, nearly empty water bottle by his side. The story came tumbling out. Alex had fallen and broken his leg. He was alone. His phone was dead, and he was sure he wouldn't survive. But then, the creature found him. Instead of harming him, it had gently picked him up and carried him to this sheltered ravine. For days, the Sasquatch had protected him, bringing him berries and fresh water from a hidden spring. It was Alex's protector, his unlikely savior. But on one of its foraging trips, it had stumbled into the hidden trap. The rescuer now needed rescuing. Sarah's mind reeled. The myth, the monster from the stories, had shown more compassion than she could have imagined. She immediately radioed for help, giving her coordinates but deliberately leaving out the most unbelievable part of the story. She simply said she'd found the missing hiker and that he needed immediate medical attention. Astewaited Sarah used her first aid kit to do what she could for both Alex and the creature. Alex, despite his own pain, was only concerned for his giant friend. He called him Shade because he always seemed to appear from the shadows. Sarah looked at this massive, wounded being who had saved a human's life at great risk to its own, and she knew the world could never know the full truth. When the rescue helicopter arrived, the noise was deafening. The creature, already weakened and terrified, thrashed in panic. Sarah and Alex worked together to calm it, speaking in low, soothing tones. The rescue team rappelled down, focused only on getting Alex into the harness. In the chaos and the whipping wind from the rotors, the creature was just a large, dark shape in the shadows of the ravine. The medics hoisted Alex up, and as they prepared to leave, Sarah made a split-second decision. Using the heavy-duty wire cutters from her survival pack, she worked frantically on the old trap. With a final, agonizing crunch of metal, the rusty jaws sprang open. The creature let out a low groan and slowly, painfully, pulled its leg free. It looked at Sarah, a long, deep look of what she could only interpret as gratitude. Then, it dragged itself into the dense woods and disappeared. Alex was rescued, and his story was a media sensation. He told everyone he survived thanks to a guardian angel of the forest, never specifying what that angel looked like. He knew, as Sarah did, that revealing the truth would only turn his savior into a target. It would spark a hunt, not a celebration of compassion. Sarah never released her photos. They remained locked away, her private proof of an impossible truth. She returned to the forest often, not with a camera to capture a legend, but with a quiet hope of seeing her friend again. She never did. But sometimes, when the forest grows still, she feels that familiar sense of being watched, and she smiles. This story forces us to ask, who are the real monsters? The unknown creatures that live in the shadows, or the people who would hunt them for fame and fortune? It's a powerful reminder that compassion can be found in the most unexpected of places, and that some secrets are best left to the wild. The world may never know the truth about the Bigfoot that saved a man's life, but for Sarah and Alex, it was a profound lesson in courage, empathy, and the hidden wonders of our world. Thanks so much for watching. If this story moved you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible tales from the edge of our world. We'll see you in the next video.